Hi there, my name's Rou. I'm the publishing editor at IK Surf Mag, and today I'm here to talk to you about the all-new Carbon Elite Type 1 Hyperlock harness from Ride Engine. Unless you've been living in a cave, you will probably heard about this harness. Ride Engine have been working on this for some time, and you'll remember a harness they released a little while ago had a kind of similar system. It was nowhere near as polished as this setup that we're seeing here. So what exactly is the Hyperlock? Well, the idea behind it is to get rid of the webbing straps that we normally use to tighten our harnesses. We've been using those since the 80s. Some of them work better than others. They can be really difficult to get the right amount of tension on the harness, and if you don't have the right amount of tension, the harness can ride up and become uncomfortable during your session. So we're always looking to get that harness as tight as possible. Now, harnesses are a very, very personal thing. Everyone has a different body shape, everyone has a different style of riding, everyone's got slightly different back ID and back shape, and so it's difficult to find one that works well for you and fits perfectly. Now, Ride Engine were famous because they were the first company to come up with a hard shell design, and the reason around that was they felt it was much better for your back and much more supportive. Originally, the company started making custom molds for individual riders before they went mainstream with a shape that they felt fitted most people. Now, I've been riding the Ride Engine harnesses since the very beginning when they first came out. I haven't actually had one in my hands for a few years now, and I was really excited to get hold of this one. I've been riding a harness from another brand that I've been super happy with, and I tend to find when I love a harness, I don't really see much need changing it because I find them so comfortable, and it's such a critical thing to use when you're riding. It's the most important bit of kit for your session, I feel. A bad harness that doesn't fit comfortably can ruin your session and make it much shorter. You can last hours and hours and hours on the water if you've got a harness that's comfortable. We'll get on to the meat and bones of how the harness feels and how it works and how comfortable I found it in a minute, but first we're going to talk about this Hyperlock system. So what is it? It's essentially two ratchet straps on either side of the harness with a spreader bar that allows you to ratchet the harness up. I'm just going to undo it here, get the spreader bar out. So you've got the two plastic straps here with the ratchets on, and then the two ratchet straps on the side here. The idea is that instead of cranking on a webbing strap, maybe not being able to pull it really tight with gloves on, or, you know, if you're not very strong, if you're a female rider or something, sometimes they can be really difficult, or if you're a kid, it can be really hard to tighten these things up. So the idea of this is that it just slots in here like that, clicks in, and then put it in the other side, and you can crank it really tight using these ratchet straps. What's amazing about these, I've been using this for about a month and a half now in a variety of conditions. So out here in beautiful Pembrokeshire where I am now, but also in Morocco, in the desert, in the heat, wearing no wetsuit with just a skin, you know, touching the harness to see how it was for comfortableness, but also wearing a 6'5" wetsuit and gloves. The other day, funnily enough, I actually forgot to tighten it up. So I went out on the water and I looked down and I realised that the spreader bar was miles away from my stomach. The harness wasn't, you know, fitting comfortably, and it was pulling around a little bit, and I was like, nightmare. Now, if that was a normal harness, you're kind of screwed. You'd have to come in, land your kite, get all the tension off your lines, or come in and ditch the kite in the water, get all the tension off your lines and crank it back up. But I was actually able to, with 2.5mm thick gloves on, tighten the harness up using the ratchet straps whilst riding. Now, that's something I've never experienced before, and it was my own fault for not tightening up before I went out, but it was quite amazing. It just goes to show that, say for instance, you put your harness on, you think it's tight, you get out there, it's pretty windy, the wind's pulling, and the harness just becomes a little bit looser. They always stretch and give a little bit. Then you can actually just tighten it up on the water. Now, this system won't stretch and give because it's not a webbing system, but it does allow you just to tune it. So when you're on the water, if you feel like it's not quite tight enough, you can just ratchet it up. Makes it really easy. Now, getting it on and off is fairly straightforward. You just open up one side by pulling both ratchet straps at the same time. They've got this webbing power belt in here, and slip it on around this body wall. That's pretty cold here in Pembrokeshire today. So put this piece on, make sure you've got enough give on either side. It is a little bit of a technique to get both of them open at the same time, but something that you'll get used to. Slot them in on this side. Once you hear them click, you know the ratchets are engaged. It's then just a case of clicking on either side and getting it nice and tight. It's unbelievably easy to use. What I would say is it's easier to reach across when you're undoing it and just get a bit of purchase, get your body twisted round so you can get both fingers in there to open both at the same time. You can open one and pull it apart and then open the other, but I find if you can get 2 fingers on it, you can easily just pull the whole thing straight out, and it's very easy to then just connect back up again. What I've been doing is I've kept this side locked and I've kept the right hand side open because I'm right-handed, so I can just adjust it on that, and it's so easy to get a really nice tight fit, which I can't tell you how important that is when you're kite surfing. The spreader bar it comes with, the one that they've sent me, just a standard spreader bar with a hook on it. There is a rope slider bar version. I've just added a little bit of rope on this one because I'm often riding waves, so it helps me to get the most out of the harness as it is. So let's talk about the Hyperlock first, because that's the most important feature. Do I love it? Yes, I do. It's amazing being able just to fine-tune it and ratchet it up whenever you want, whenever you're on the water. If you're coming from a session, you want to undo it just to have a bit of a breather, you can really easily, and then you can just crank it back up again. It's a really simple system to use, and I like it a lot. I've been testing it a lot, and Ride Engine actually have been using this for 1.5 years with various alpha and beta testers just to make sure the system works. They understand it's going to be abused, it's going to get salt, sand, difficult conditions and things like that. So they've been really working on making sure it's extremely durable. In the 1.5 months or so that I've had it, I've not had any issues with it at all. I haven't rinsed it with fresh water. I've been leaving it salty in the back of the van. In fact, it's still wet at the moment, which is a bit annoying because it's got on my nice dry body warmer and it's a bit cold here today. But yeah, I've not treated it with much love, and I haven't noticed any signs of rusting or any sort of damage to the ratchets or anything like that. So I think they've done a really good job on that. It's really easy to use. It allows you to get the harness really nice and tight, and I would say from that perspective, the Hyperlock is a big win from me. It's such a great system. It's so much better than webbing. I thought I would go back to my harness that I've been using for the last couple of years because it's a real favourite of mine and I absolutely love it. And honestly, since this thing's arrived, at first I was like, is it going to be comfortable enough? Am I going to be loving it enough to sort of let it take over from my main harness? And the answer's been a resounding yes. I still kept my main harness in the van, haven't used it once since this baby arrived, so I am enjoying using it. Let's talk a little bit about comfort. Now, I mentioned right at the beginning that harnesses are very particular. You need to make sure it fits you. You need to make sure it's something that fits your body shape as well. When I first put this on, I was a little bit unsure as to whether I was going to find it super comfortable, but I can attest that it's absolutely beautiful on my back. Initial impressions were I was like, oh, it doesn't feel quite as nice as my previous harness, but actually when I'm riding, I can't feel any pressure points or any pain or any sort of parts that would cause me discomfort at all. For wave riding and things like that, it's super comfy, foiling as well, big air, everything in between, it works an absolute charm. The construction of the harness is up to Ride Engine's amazing quality as ever, so you're expecting to see really good quality stitching. What they've used is a 12K hard shell, which has been redesigned to be even more ergonomic and fit as many people as possible. It's really stiff, really solid. It's their hardest sort of shape that you can get. There's a little bit of give there, but not a lot. On the inside, there are 2 EVA pads here, which kind of add a little bit of cushioning and just stop it from moving around too much. And then there's a closed cell foam on the inside that doesn't absorb water with a comfortable neoprene wrap around it. In terms of the profile of the harness, it is a little bit higher profile than my old one. I'd say my old one was quite thin. It was very narrow in the back, but these flexible bits here make it really, really comfy. And I haven't found that slightly higher profile has been affecting the way I ride or given me any sort of hindrance at all. I know someone actually messaged me and they said, what is the profile of the harness compared to brand X that I was using before? And I did say it's about an inch and a half higher profile, but when you're wearing it, it feels really, really comfortable, and I've absolutely, loved it. And as I said earlier, it's the harness that I'm wearing at the moment. So the Ride Engine Carbon Elite Hyperlock is an absolute win from me. A little note on sizing, I went with a medium. I'm normally a medium harness, and there is a lot of adjustment here as well. So you haven't just got the ratchet strap adjustment here, you've got these bolts which you can undo, and when you undo those, you can then lengthen these bits out, which you'll see in the video because I'll cut that in, and that works really well. Other features that it's got, you've got double-sided leash attachment points so you can connect your leash. You've got handle pass leash on the back here as well if you're into doing freestyle and those kind of tricks. And overall the construction is as you'd expect from Ride Engine. It's super high end. It's a really lovely bit of kit and it works really well. I've been enjoying using it. I'm going to carry on riding it, and I would recommend, if you haven't tried one, try it. The Hyperlock system is an absolute game changer. It just makes putting your harness on and off so easy and so simple, and it allows you to get it really tight. I've not had this harness ride up at all, whether I'm doing big air and sending the kite really high, or wave riding or wiping out, crashing. It just sits, locks into my back, which has been absolutely great. Never once had to kind of push it down or work with it at all. It's been phenomenal. So I highly recommend the Ride Engine Carbon Elite Hyperlock harness. I'm loving it so far.